Recording.
Good evening and welcome to Artist Talk on Art. On Monday, October 30th, 2023, I'm Doug Shear, President. Tonight we're bringing back what was a very popular event in the past to ATOA and its viewers, the open screening, which is a kind of salon on a small scale. No complex curation, just friendly opportunity to screen recent work in front of a generally empathetic audience of fellow artists. In other words, it's usually a nice experience. I'll act as MC and will run as long as we need to accommodate those wishing to screen their work. And if it remains a fairly small group, we'll each take a little more time, which is nice. And then, of course, it will have a second life on YouTube within a few days, where you can send friends. And ultimately, it ends up at Archives of American Art of the Smithsonian. Next week.
I'm not on film.
Hi there.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Okay. Next week, November 6th, we'll feature 3 contemporary sculptors who utilize color as a core element of their work. Victoria Palermo, Mario Quiles, and Shelley Parriott, and I will be moderating that one. If you have questions or comments for artist presenters tonight, just unmute yourself at the end of their individual presentation where you can bring in your comments or questions for them. This program is being recorded in Zoom and copyrighted by Artist Talk on Art and will, as I said, soon be posted to YouTube. Before we go on to the open screening, let me just mention that next year is going to be our 50th anniversary year. We have a lot of great things in store. Keep yourself posted about that. And so now, by show of hands, who would like to go first? How about Adrian? So unmute yourself, Adrian.
Okay, thank you very much, Doug. Wonderful.
Okay. And you know how to screen share, I'm hoping?
Where it says share screen.
Yes, that's usually.
All right. Hold my breath and here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so actually before I go ahead and do that, I'd like to give a little intro.
Yes,
So I have been an analog, meaning film photographer, for over 30 years. And I'm from New York originally, born in Brooklyn before it was Brooklyn. And now for the past about 23 years, I split my time between Manhattan and suburban Maryland. So in those years, pretty much toward the beginning or right before I moved part-time to Maryland, which was full-time for a long time, I was renting, I had a darkroom share in the remnants of the photo district. And I knew that where I was going in Maryland was going to be probably difficult to find a private rental darkroom situation. So I said, what do I do? What do I do? So one day I was printing and I had been doing hand cut collage since childhood. One day, a few months before I moved, I was printing and I saw this image come up in the chemistry and I had light bulb overhead. This is what I'm going to do when I get down to Maryland. I'm going to make multiple prints and cut them up into collages. So that was the very beginning of my Architectures photo collage series, and 23 years later, it's still going strong. So it is motivated by the architecture and urban landscapes of Manhattan. And in recent years, I've also broadened it a little to include moments that are meaningful to me, a time, a place, a sentiment, something that I see that touches me, and I want to capture it. And over the years, I kind of know ahead of time which photos are going to be collages and which are just going to be straight photographs. So now I'm going to do the screen share. And, oh, okay. I know that there's a way. Files, Okay, I have everything open in.
You
In
can
the-
select one program to share, or you can select your whole desktop.
I'm looking for the program and I do not, oh, show all windows, okay. Because I've got everything open, I've got all the files open in a photo viewer program, so I'll just go one at a time and it's not allowing me to maximize the screen. Love technology, that's why I spend my time in the darkroom. So this is how I start. Okay, move this window away. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but anyway, so this is a bunch of negative strips that are drying inside of my drying cabinet. Again, I shoot the film and I hand process it in small tanks. And since about 2008 or 9, I've been shooting 120 format, which is about 2.5 size, the 35mm postage stamp size that most people are familiar with. So this is what some of the negatives look like hanging in the drying cabinet. And now let's see how I can, I'm afraid to close this because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to navigate from this to the rest of the files. Here we go. All right. So I opened up some of the most recent works over the past few years. Starting with the pandemic, I'm actually a legal resident of Maryland. And in the pandemic, we were fortunate enough there to get some COVID relief funds from the federal government. And I also got a grant to create some large scale works, which are always very challenging if you don't have the money to create them. So I'll just sort of go through them rather quickly. This is all points, and this is made from a number of prints of part of a structure in Central Park near Bethesda Fountain. And let's see what else we've got here. I apologize for my kind of, okay, I'm going to go back a little because there's no way to order these. So this is a stack of prints that have dry mount tissue attached to the back of them. A lot of people look at my work and they're not quite sure what it is and how it's made. So what I'll do is I'll make multiple prints in the dark room, one at a time by hand. And once I've toned them and flattened them out, I will attach dry mount tissue under about 200 degree heat to the back of each of the prints, which I will then later cut out to be a collage. So this is a little bit of the process. And this is actually a stack of prints that I made about 4 or 5 months ago, about 30, 40 prints here. I just figure out how to make it the first time around. I see someone peering. I can enlarge this a little bit. I figure out the correct exposure the first time around, and then I'll just pretty much as fast as I can and as much drying rack space as I have, I'll make 20, 30, 40 prints until I get tired, basically. So,
Excuse
all
me,
right.
are you changing the screen because it's the same thing that you're talking?
Oh, my goodness. It says this.
Same
Thank
thing.
you very much. It says your screen sharing is paused, and I don't know why, so I'm going to resume the share. So I do apologize for that. So I'm going to go back really quick. Yeah, this is the one part of Zoom that I don't have a lot of experience with, and I don't know why it paused it. So thank you very much for pointing that out. So this is a stack of prints that I made about 4 or 5. Again, it's telling me it's paused. I don't know why. It keeps taking.
Try going out of screen share and start again. Just go out of it and start again.
Okay.
You've got something that stopped.
Well,
All
okay.
right, try it again to screen share.
Okay, I may have to do this for
Pick
every
up.
single, I suspect I'll have to do this for every
Do you have
single
a
image.
folder? Are they all in a folder?
No,
Okay.
because these are all the high res many of the high-res images from my website. Please move this window away from the shared application. Okay. All right, so here's a stack of prints that I made about 4 or 5 months ago. And basically, once I figure out the correct exposure and time for the first good one, then I will repeat that 20, 30, or 40 times, and I'll make multiple prints, which is what you see here. I think I'm just going to have to stop and redo the share every single time because I don't know what else to do with this. And I don't dig fighting with technology. So here is a stack of prints with dry mount tissue attached. And essentially what I'll do is to each of the prints under about 200 degrees Fahrenheit heat in a dry mount press, I will attach dry mount tissue to the back of each one, and the screen share is not letting me enlarge this. Oh, good. Okay, love technology. All right, so I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to start it again because I just don't know what else to do. It's not, oh, look at this. This is a mess here. Okay. Yeah, this screen share is just not working for me with the photo viewer, which is where I've got all the files opened to do a presentation. So I honestly don't know what to do with this. Most of them, I see this. I don't know what this is. Did anyone see the screen change now?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we can see it.
Mazel tov. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, that's what needed to happen. All right. So I'm going to go a little bit more quickly now. This is one of the latest pieces, the latest large piece that I've made. This is Her Majesty, and you can see it's very three-dimensional. This is 1170 Broadway. I just was walking around with my camera and I saw this and I said, oh, wow, look at that. It'll make a great collage. Oh, thank you, Regina. So, so I showed this in June at the National Arts Club. Oh, gosh. If I can find it. Here we are. The National Arts Club annual round table exhibit. My friend Susan Schwab invited me to exhibit as her guest. So here I am at the opening reception with this piece. So you get a sense of the scale. And all right, let's just see what else we have. So this is one of the ones that I made during the pandemic called Calliope. And this is also from sort of a keystone in Central Park near Bethesda Fountain. And this is one of the most complex pieces that I've made. And here I am deciding as I was putting it together, which pieces are going to be raised above the substrate, which is mounting board, something called rising board, which is I used 8-ply, very thick museum board. So as I went along, I basically decided which pieces are going to be above which other pieces. And that's typical for the three-dimensional ones. And here I am with this piece. So you get a sense of the scale of it, and you can sort of see the shadows that are cast by the pieces. So I assembled this, which is characteristic of my process, a piece at a time. Because it's three-dimensional, I had to do it with a tacking iron. So each of these sections I went over by hand, and then these three-dimensional sections that are casting shadows, I just sort of let them go free. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, this is Corsage, another piece that I made during the pandemic. And I usually don't do flowers, although increasingly I've been doing nature. And one of the things that I was struggling with during the pandemic I think I mentioned initially that I split my time between Manhattan and suburban Maryland. And I much prefer Manhattan, but my darkroom and my main studio are in Maryland because real estate, real estate, real estate. So when I was there, despite all the things that were going on here in New York, I yearned to be here. It's crazy, I know, but it was a long time for me to be away. So these pansies are from a photograph that I took on one of my early dates with my partner, with whom I moved down to, or for whom I moved down to Maryland to be with. So this was not only for me a pandemic, but also sort of going through the same thing that I've gone through for the past 23 years of this struggle, this kind of always want of being in two places and never really being totally present in either place. And so here I am in the summer, right after finishing it. Oh, I'm wearing the same shirt right now, as I see. Just a little cell phone for scale. Cell phone shot rather for scale. And one of the ones, this is probably my favorite piece of all time. It's called Anywhere You Go. And this is made of 56 flowers. Each one is hand cut, and you can probably see the little shadow that's cast underneath each of them. I've got 2 rows of these. And then I've got the glass canopy over an Upper East Side building, which I've used in many other pieces in an arabesque formation. It's actually hanging near me here on the wall. And for me, this sort of encapsulates the struggle, the push-pull, the back and forth between the city, the suburbs, the 2 ways of life. And you will notice that I put the city on top of the nature. And that was quite intentional on my part. So let's just see what else. I think I've only got a couple more from this series. Again, these are all part of the Architectures series of hand-cut photo collages. All right, let's just see. Oh, here's another one, Infinity Gate, which is a number of prints. This is just a 2-dimensional one. So I did it on a dry mount press. So everything is flat to the mounting board. So this is a newel post and some wrought iron detail somewhere in Manhattan. And I'm so glad I got this thing to work. And here I am. You can see the scale of it. So the last thing that I want to show is actually not a photo collage at all. The last thing that I want to show is a public art piece that I was one of 2 artists chosen from my town in Maryland called Wheaton, Maryland, to be artist consultants on this installation that's in a public square. So I've got some pictures there, some pictures of this to show.
Let's let anyone that would like to make a comment or ask a question do so, Adrian. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, of course.
Okay. Would anyone like to ask a question or have a comment about the work? Okay.
Your comment on this one? This is a
Sure.
sculpture.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm about to talk about this. But
Tell
Doug
us
asked
more,
if,
tell us more. This is interesting, the
All right,
sculpture.
discuss this piece of sculpture, and then I would like to move on to another artist.
sure. So this is called Meet Me at the Triangles in the Marion Friar Plaza in downtown Wheaton, Maryland. This was traditionally a triangular shaped piece of land. And so I worked with 2 other artists, and this was created in a foundry near Salt Lake City. So my favorite part of this are these wings, and this is a walk-in installation. You see here, you can walk right in, and there are a number of objects, cast bronze objects, some colored and some not, affixed all around the inside. Okay, here's the wing shadow. So I shot a photo of a detail over a door of a house that's just a few blocks away, and essentially it was enlarged and duplicated 3 times and then formed into these curved wing-like aspects, which in the late day sun cast shadows on the main structure. These are repeated images from a clock tower in town. Let's just see what else.
Now, what is the material there?
This is laser cut stainless steel with affixed bronze objects on the interior.
Mhm.
And it measures in inches. That's what they gave it to me. 1,810 inches rather, by 84 inches by 17 feet high. No, that's feet, sorry. not
Wait, I'm
inches.
getting out my calculator.
Okay, well, it's all on my website. So these are butterflies that I photographed. There's a nearby public park called Brookside Gardens. They have a butterfly exhibit. So essentially, this piece is all about life in Wheaton, the people, the history. We did a lot of preparatory work and a lot of research to figure out what sorts of imagery we would use. And the red on the interior is Wheaton red, where it was Wheaton red before the sun faded it. Red, as we know, is fugitive. And unfortunately, the foundry who created this for us was not aware of that.
Okay, Adrian, we need to move on to another.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
the
showing.
opportunity.
You're welcome. Who would like to go next? Regina? Go ahead, unmute yourself,
Yes.
Regina.
My name is Regina Gredes. I live in northern Manhattan. And I am an assemblage artist. I repurpose, recombine, and reflect. So this is my first time before at ATOA, and so I'm a little nervous. But the art technique that does it for me is assemblage art. The art of placing objects or parts of objects together in meaningful artistic ways. For instance, an oil carafe, a costume jewelry ring, and a pot pipe become an elegant lady. Let's see if you could see this.
Uh-huh.
I need a white background. There she is.
Uh-huh. Right.
And here is her friend, an old salt shaker with a bottle cap.
Right.
And I like taking things apart as well. So here is a little something from something I took apart.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't see it. Okay. I don't know if you could see this when I,
Mhm.
no, it's, I'm sorry, I'll get better with time. This is 3 pieces.
Right.
When put together, they make a little lady who has attitude. 2 carafes and a beater.
Mhm.
And now let me show you something. I went away for well, here, this is 3 pieces as well. And it's a downtrodden soldier made of a vase and a fork and a ladle and a necklace. And when I see it, I think of the hardship of those who are asked to participate in war. Now here is the other one. Isn't she cute?
Uh-huh.
And then when I went away because of COVID, I made like a shrine to my mom who was in a nursing home. You can see her, her sculpture. At the top is the arms of God surrounding her. And here, next to her, oh, I'm going the wrong way because of the.
It's okay. It's visible.
So
I think
slowly,
some of these things would be interesting in boxes, you know, with maybe a glass front, a vitrine.
That's a good idea, Doug.
Like a shadow box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If everybody switches to speaker view, you could see a larger image
Right.
of what Regina's showing. If
Mhm.
you switch from gallery to speaker view.
yeah. So I don't know if you could see this.
Yes, definitely.
It's. Well, here it is. And it's called About Living Your Truth. It's little pieces, friendship, a Jewish star. At the top are 3 parts of me.
Mhm.
And at the bottom are a taken apart hair clip, which looks like crab legs. And as the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, I'm always aware that at any moment I might have to scuttle out of where I am to be safe.
Let's hope not.
I don't know. But making this art comforts me as I put things together. And as I put things together, the art tells me, you know, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I go into this flow, and you know, it could go for hours, and then the next day for hours. And when it's ready, it says, you know, this is it. It's complete. You have made the statement that touches your heart, and put it on the shelf and wait for the next time.
Thank you very much, Regina.
You're welcome.
Who would like to go next? If nobody volunteers, I will go next.
Good.
Something I haven't done in a while.
Oh, I guess, all right, you didn't see my,
Well, you'll go after me. You can go next after me.
okay.
So what I had, now I don't know if I'm going to be shown full screen or not. Do I have to do something on my end?
If people would switch to speaker view rather than gallery, you'll
Okay,
be full screen.
speaker view. Hang on a second.
And if other individuals also do it on their
Okay,
computer.
I'm in speaker view, so in any event, what I'm showing are all things from 2023. These are drawings, or they're paintings rather, on paper. In this case, it's an acrylic, acrylic ink, colored pencil, and graphite on what's known as layout bond. So it's an archival paper. Here's another piece.
Nice.
Thank you.
Edith, can you go on, put your mute on so we're
Sure.
not seeing you when you speak?
These are all approximately the same size. I believe these are 14 by 17 inches. And I also work much larger, and I also work on canvas and other on board and so on, but I do many things on paper.
So Doug, what is the inspiration for those designs?
Well, I start by drawing. I start by making marks, usually with pencil. I mean, I'm classically a gestural abstractionist, although I should say that from about 1968 until the early 80s, I was a pioneering video artist. And so what I was doing then looked quite different. And then I returned to a more traditional abstract formatting. This is the last piece for me. And the only other thing I would say is I grew up in Greenwich Village. My parents were both painters. They were Hans Hofmann students. They were WPA artists, and they belonged to the Artists Union. Again, I became a pioneering video artist starting in 1968. I was a co-founder of ATOA in 1974. I don't know when to quit. And that's my story.
Doug, do you use your the smaller pieces as a way to get into making the larger pieces, or do you just think of them as separate entities?
Well, they sometimes inspire larger pieces, but they're not maquettes or studies. But I work the same way, whether I'm working on canvas or, I mean, I do some canvases currently that are 54 by 84 inches. I've been doing a series that size. So I often work much larger. Maybe a typical size of painting is, say, 36 by 36 or 40 by 40, that's around that size, which is a practical size to work in, at least for me. But I approach very much in a similar way. That is, I'm making marks, then I'm building up color. I work almost completely with knives, as opposed to, but I'm often using very large spackle knives, very large. Some of them are like 12 or 14 inches across, especially on canvases. And brush and sponge and various other techniques, but that's how I'm working, whether it's on a very small scale. And in fact, I've done many things that are much smaller, like 6 by 6 inches, which that's a lot of what's on my website, for example, is very small work.
Doug,
Anyway,
do you
yeah.
give your paintings, your artwork names? And if so, how do you
Generally,
name it?
no. Generally, no. Which I think is quite typical of most abstractionists. Although, and then I feel that what has set me off, what has prevented me from naming many things, is I think a lot of those namings are often quite pretentious, and I prefer the sort of unvarnished approach of untitled. So, yeah.
And when you paint, do you start sort of with the larger shapes in space and then sort of have one relate to the other? And is that how it works in your mind?
Well, I start by
I like your
drawing.
work a great deal.
Oh, thank you. I start by drawing, and that sort of sets up a kind of armature, which is more of a sculptural idea.
Mhm.
But on that armature, then I start hanging usually some broad swaths of color, and then I'm interfering with those swaths of color by pulling other color other paints through them, creating often different textures and different mixtures of color. So I'm quite often putting multiple colors right out of the tube onto the spackling knife, so that I'm blending colors as I'm putting paint on the surface. And then I'm also taking other colors, and sometimes things that are much more much more contrasty to what I've already put down. So I might start working in black, or something very dark navy, or a very dark red or purple on a surface that has otherwise been much milder, lighter, pastel-like colors, or vice versa.
Mhm. Thank you.
Oh,
Doug,
thank
do
you.
you mask your paintings? Do you mask?
Mask them. You mean using tape to?
Yes. Yeah.
I do usually, particularly when I'm working on canvases, I like to create a border using tape.
I see, but not actually in the painting.
When I'm working on this kind of thing, I will often put holding lines on the edges. I don't put tape down because it will damage the
Right.
surface.
Right.
But I'll put very light pencil holding lines, and then I will erase those lines after I'm done. And occasionally I've been known to put stripes or, block out areas on a canvas, at least initially, and then I may, do damage to that as I go forward. That is, even after I peel off the tape, I may do yet again something else, but there'll be vestiges of those masked off areas. So
And do you use acrylic ink, or do you use alcohol ink as well?
I have occasionally used alcohol ink, but for the most part, I use acrylic paint, acrylic ink, or acrylic pens,
Right.
which are archival, colored pencils, quite a variety, hundreds and hundreds of colored pencils, and then graphite. Very fond of graphite. And occasionally, while the paint is wet, I will sprinkle powdered graphite or other powdered materials like
Pastel.
crumble up as pastel, possibly, things like that, or powdered pigment, in order to create a grittiness, which does some very interesting things as you move things around on it.
Your work is wonderful. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Really
As
love
you
it.
say, I don't show it that often.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll be braver next time.
It is, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Great work.
Thank you. So, Babs, you were waiting to show some work?
Sure, yeah, I
Okay.
can go next. Okay. I'll screen share, and I'm gonna go for I'm gonna go for this one here. See if this works out. And I am gonna start with, a lot of you know me as a installation artist, and I've done very large installations, and in fact, my screen there is literally my background is an installation that I did at the end of last year called The Lost Trees. But let me go ahead and see if this shares properly or not. Is this sharing at all or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
is, but it's not giving you, it's like squaring off and not giving me the full screen. So let me do this a different way, right? It's
Well,
zooming in.
we're seeing what looks like pretty much a full screen, almost.
Yeah, okay, let me just stop sharing for a second, and I just want to see if it does it better if I completely share my whole desktop.
Mhm.
Let me do the desktop and share and try it this way and see. And so then if I do this, can you see the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes.
That's better, right? You're seeing
Yeah.
like literally seeing the painting. So I need to put this over here and this over here, and that way you can see the painting. Is it fairly large? Because I can't tell from my end what
Yes, it's large. It's large.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a all new work, and the last couple of years, and this is a 60 by 60 inch painting, and I have my MFA in painting, but I have done large sculptures, I do large installations, and this body of work that I'm working on for a solo show is mostly these paintings. So this is 60 by 60 inches, it's on canvas, and it's using my method of rust and tea stain painting, which I've developed over the course of the last 20-something years. And what this is that there's, I use modeling paste. I have a cradled panel that's got the little tree drawing on it. And this one's titled Skin, Tree, and Vessel #1. And this is the first one in the series. And there's going to be a few of these now that are, oops, I want to go the other way and show you another detail of this one. So you can see these things are tacked on, but the surface is made with rubbed in oil and a sanded modeling paste on top of gessoed canvas. And then I'm going to see how, I'm trying to zoom in just a little so you can see the detail of each one of these things. It's just hours and hours of sewing. So now let me go back to another method, which is still the stain painting, but this is on paper. It's mounted in a rusted steel frame, which is part of the piece. And it's a shadow box created frame. I have a guy who makes the steel frames for me. I rust them, I finish them, and then I put this plexiglass sheet over the top. But there's all this hand stitching, and all that gets done before I put the final piece together. And then this is just showing you a detail of the hand stitching. And this series is called Double Vessel. So these pieces are going to be in my upcoming, I'm actually in another show that's opening November 9th. And these pieces I'm showing you right now will be in that show. And I'm going to go to another. Now, this isn't a little older piece, but it's one of the earliest ones of the stain painting stuff, and I did a side profile so you can sort of see how the framing is put together. And then here's a detail of that other one. This is another one that's going to be in the show. These are all 2023 works. And I'm just showing you some details of them.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so you're saying it's on canvas? Are these on canvas?
No, these are rust and tea stain paintings made on paper. And then the paper is adhered, I'll go back, the paper is adhered to a panel that I make.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
And so the stitching goes through the paper.
Right, I do it all before I mount it onto the panel. And the stitching, I mean, I obviously couldn't do it because it's on a panel now. And the panel is finished also with modeling paste, and you can't see any of that in the photos, but so it has a texture to it. I wanted everything to feel like it's this old fresco type material. And obviously you can see there's all different methods I use to rust and tea stain paint, which people don't really know what I do or how I make this happen, but it's all a bunch of objects that sit in a tray on top to create the paper pieces. And then on that canvas that you saw earlier, that one has all of these pieces attached there. That's when I said I'm kind of I consider them paintings, but they're also assemblage, they're collage, they're a multitude of different things that I do to the pieces. Now, these are individual stains, and then I just work on them, and then I mount them. And then I'm just going to take you briefly to, this is a bigger piece. This is a 4-foot square. Those other pieces were all 30 inches square. And you can see that this one is a shadow box too, and it has big silk organza bags stuck to it. And all, like I said, all of these are double vessel pieces. And there's a whole long theory to that, but we don't need to get into it. But I also collage stuff on top, as I mentioned, and there's stitching. Sometimes there's a faux or trompe l'oeil stitch that I draw, but most of it is with embroidery thread.
The beauty.
Thank you. And then this one is a lousy shot, but it's not put together yet. It's one of the new ones, and I just took it with my phone. The others are taken with a real camera, but you can get, I thought I'd show some of the details so you can see what some of the staining. And this is one of the earliest ones in the piece. It's like, it was the first one I framed, so it's double vessel number 1. And okay, and that's it for those things. And now I'm going to show you the just so you get a sense of my website. This is the large work that I do, and like I said, the very first piece this shot is behind me on my screensaver, and it just gives you a kind of an overall sense of my work. So we got the paintings, and then I have these giant installations that I do. And the paintings are going to be in a solo show. There's many more to them. This is only a small showing of them that are going to be in a solo show in Sarasota, which opens in February. And that's pretty much it.
So it's interesting that what you call your tea stain series, these, you could consider them to be prints in a way, right? Prints with collage elements, let's say.
Well, they're really not prints. To me, I consider them paintings because they're all one of a kind. And the way that I'm making them is just that I'm doing the mark making with a staining process. Like you're doing the mark making with a brush. I'm doing it with stitching, and I'm doing it with all of these objects that I lay on top to create all of those shapes. And so it's a long list of objects that go into making this. And there's different salt water, different tea water, different and different things that I'm using on top of this to, make it happen. Hang on one second, honey, I'm in the middle of a presentation. I'm almost done. Okay. All right. So anyway,
Christo, for example, used to do very limited edition prints. I mean, when I say limited, like maybe 20 pieces, maybe even only 10 or 12 pieces. And so the majority of it would have been a print, but then he was also painting on areas, and he would have just something very subtle, like a piece of string, very subtle element, but he considered that a collage. And
that's interesting. I see what you're saying. You're saying like, and I have a whole body of monotypes, which they're individuals because I did different things to them, obviously. But to me, there's nothing that's print quality about this. I mean, he is actually creating a print. I've seen.
if anything, it's like a transfer sort of process. Or you're painting with the tea staining, I guess.
I'm painting. I'm not considering it a transfer process, although in a way it's a transfer process because what I'm using to make it are things like chain and steel wool, and I use fabrics. I lay fabrics down and I stain the fabrics, and then I reuse that. I do a lot of recycling with all of my materials. They're used over and over and over again.
People ever asked you what type of tea you're using for your staining?
Yeah, it's called black tea. It's
black
really
tea.
It's really exotic. It's called black tea.
Yeah.
Okay, I should stop.
All right. Thank you very much. Who would like to show something next? Have we run out of enthusiasm?
I'm happy. I'm not terribly prepared, and I haven't done a shared screen, but I have something that I can show a few pieces to you. So what do? I do share screen and then I go
Yes.
to my,
Yeah, try that and we'll help if we need to.
okay, it's right here.
Okay.
Okay, so
And Guna, also tell us a little bit about yourself.
all right, I live in I used to live in Philadelphia. I now live in New York, a combination of 3 months in New York, 5 months in Arizona, and also on a New Jersey beach, and I'm everywhere. I used to be in one place. I used to teach watercolor at Penn. I was a longtime Philadelphia artist, and all that has been sort of changed. Whatever. So I have done a lot of work essentially on paper. And I used to belong here in Philadelphia, in New York. I used to belong to the Phoenix Gallery, where actually,
Okay.
yes, with Linda.
Artist Talk on Art had at least 2, possibly 3 periods of time where they were our venue.
Yes, that
So
was
we're very
down
fond,
on
very
Broad
fond
Street.
of the Phoenix Gallery. Very fun.
Right, and I often came to those and sort of got artists for various shows in Love Ladies where I helped to curate. Okay, so these things, and I don't know how to enlarge them exactly. These are small watercolor drawings with pencil and watercolor, and then they're attached collage-like on larger pieces, which give them a sort of a larger atmosphere where they can be and ask maybe questions. I don't know how I can enlarge this so you could see it larger.
At the top of your screen, there's something called view options, which gives you the alternative to see things 100%, 200%.
View options?
View options. It's a little black box with an arrow, and you press on the arrow, and there you can.
Or do you see the magnet, or with the magnifying glass where you see plus and minus? Try hitting plus on the magnifying glass.
On the magnifying.
It should be at the top.
Maybe it's under more. Is it under more?
No, it's right on the top row. You see there's an eye and a circle, then there's a magnifying glass with minus, then with plus.
Try the plus.
On the top in the gray
On
bar.
the top, it says pause, share, annotate, remote control apps.
You may have a different screen display.
No, you have to move that
I
toolbar out of the way, and you can see your own computer screen. So you see search at the upper right, and keep sliding your eye to the left, to the left, to the left.
Stop participants, chat, summary.
No, you're looking at the Zoom controls.
Oh,
You have
okay.
to.
Oh,
you
I
have
see it. I see
that.
it. I see it.
There
you go.
Okay.
Okay, let me just see if I can slide it down a bit now so that you don't see half of it. Oh, but this
Click and drag in the image. Click and drag in the image if you want to do that.
Let me make it smaller again.
Okay. That's very good right there, really. That's pretty good.
Okay, so here's one. I mean, you can get the overall idea, right?
Now it's a collage technique, right? It's a watercolor with a series of smaller watercolors, collage to the
Yes, and I do wish I could show you the whole thing somehow. Let me go smaller again. Maybe, so here's small. Now, if I click on one and it's certainly not blue like that. It's like more like, it's the natural color. So, and then you have sort of the sense of other observers coming in and participating in this scene wherever it is. And I have series like that, and these are mostly from the New Jersey beach.
Right.
And they're little places that I go and I park my car, and I have little pads in my car all the time. And it's just sort of sometimes seeing something that I'm very familiar with, and I sort of bring that home almost as a photograph, but it's a drawing. And then I put these together in a series. Now, let me make these smaller. No, sorry.
There you
So
go.
now I'm going to go to some other things
Okay.
and leaving New Jersey. So here I'm in Arizona in my backyard. And in Arizona, well, I don't really consider myself as a landscape painter, but I do like sort of shapes of color in movement. That's why I really like your work, Doug.
Thank
So,
you.
well, actually, I'm painting some roof in some ways and a bit of sky here. In some ways, to me, it's a bit like your work because I'm really doing these shapes
Right.
that are in movement and are changing, and this to me says how large the sky is, and of course these are very much my backyard Arizona colors. And let's see, let me go down. And there are more of them. There's zillions of them. There are pads and pads of these things.
Uh-huh.
And they're kind of like, as I said, daily things from the supermarket where I park my car.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go in my pad as my 20-minute experience of that morning of what the color was.
That's a nice neighborhood your supermarket is in.
The neighborhood, oh, and here you can see a little bit more of those squarey shapes,
Uh-huh.
And sort of the color of Arizona is so different from New Jersey. And the fact that there's a lot of rust, and you never have kind of, although here I've put them in, but you hardly ever have rich greens. The color is sort of very pale and
Right.
desert-like, and you sense that the dryness of the environment. These are actually, it's a weekend in Florida, so it's totally different. So these are some other watercolors where, often for me in the watercolor, it starts as something and then some other things wander into the watercolor, and here these cows happen to wander in under the flowers and whatnot.
What
So
size are they?
it's sort of, I'm sorry?
Yeah,
The
what size
size?
are the
What
individual
size?
little
Oh,
water-
these things are probably, they're the regular watercolor paper, 22 by 30.
Uh-huh.
I also do them, I mean, I've done watercolors that are 82 inches long, but I don't have any of those shots. And I used to do sort of single objects, very, very large.
How do you manage to get the unpainted spaces, the lines that are in there? Are you folding your paper at all, or are you?
No, this is, paper is much too heavy to fold.
Okay.
No, these are strips that I put on,
Oh, okay.
kind of like action strips.
Right, right.
I want to move this color and move it over. I'd like you to see this whole thing.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm just really sort of bad at this. And, there are various, I want to move this over so you can see this underneath. Let's see.
You need to
Because-
grab it somewhere, like maybe at the very top of this
Yes.
display.
Oh, maybe up here?
Well, all the way at the top of whatever's the
This
top.
is the color. But you see, there are often objects moving through, like these knives are chasing each other. And here you
Right.
can see parts of human beings walking through.
Right.
These-
Pair of pliers. Uh-huh.
and their pliers, and their various kinds of objects. And here you would have some coyotes, and there are more coyotes, but I can't move the picture over. And
Okay.
there are the faces looking in on the scene. So it's also, to me is sort of multiple perception. Like somebody gives me this amaryllis and I say, oh, how gorgeous. So I'll paint some of it. But then I also paint other companions. And so it's not the amaryllis alone. It's all those other things that are on one's mind and are happening. And the coyotes yelling in my backyard. And it's all part of one. Does that?
I can see where you
Where
must-
are you?
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in Tucson. I'm in the foothills of Tucson.
Right. I can see where you must have inspired many wonderful watercolorists. And I say that,
You know, when I was teaching, I was very pedantic and we did grayscale and color mixes and
yeah.
Albers, and it was a very traditional classical course, as if at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, where
Right.
I also spent a little time.
Right.
You know,
My parents were both watercolorists at certain stages earlier on, you know.
well, I started as an oil painter. I did large oil paintings. So this is sort of more of the same and you know, it has there are hands and there's certain meanings for me, like they're plants that my mother planted, and you know, it all has various kinds of symbolism for me. And oh, here we go. And here, this is Iris is Rising. And again, somebody had given me these, so I stuck them in a vase, brought them. In Tucson, I work in a garage, which was, it has a skylight and it has a window. So it's actually, and I put in an air conditioner. So
Right.
it's actually a very kind of open space to work, and I paint and I do little oil paintings on one corner. And so it's actually not bad. I don't want to bore you too long with this. It's just a little, so this is me in my backyard.
Well, bravo, Guna. You know,
Well, thank you very much
really
for
lovely to see these things.
taking time to look at them.
And
Okay.
is there someone else that would like to show? Don't be bashful.
I would have liked to, but I'm not prepared and I missed the first email that you sent.
Okay.
So if there's another time, I'll do it the next time. So it's done.
This is a format that I think we're reviving because it is a nice experience.
It's really nice experience.
And it used to be quite popular when we did it regularly. So we're bringing it back in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
So I think that if no one else wants to show, we will say good night and thank everybody that came tonight. Again, if you have some friends that would like to see this program that weren't with us tonight, just let them know that it'll be on the Artist Talk on Art YouTube channel within a few days, and they can see it there. And so I thank you all for being with us. Those of you who weren't prepared, come prepared next time.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for doing
But
this.
you'll still
Thank you
you'll
very
still get a
much.
participation medal just for showing up.
Bye-bye.
I
Okay.
wanted to ask one thing, if I
Yeah,
may.
sure. Go
Is
ahead.
there anybody here who likes to like draw in the park, in Central Park? There used to be somebody who attended this, because I'd like to sometimes go and I need like a pal.
Yeah.
There's actually
I
a
don't-
group. I met someone recently who belongs to a group. It's called like Urban Sketchers. So you
Urban
might want to
Sketchers?
do a search for them.
Do they have a website somewhere, I guess?
I don't know. I was at a wedding and I was talking to someone who took part in this. I don't draw, so I'm sorry. I don't know anything
So
more.
look for their sketchy looking website.
Urban Sketchers. I'm going to look them
Yeah.
up. There used to be a person who attended this, and she showed her work, and she had a little group,
Right.
and I don't remember the name.
She
So-
kept going until she broke her pencil one day.
So I have a
Well,
quick
we do
question
more
about,
than pencils.
Yes.
We do color pencils.
I know.
You know.
you
Yes.
mentioned that that these recordings go into the archives of American art at Smithsonian? How does that, do you do it regularly? Do you just?
Right, so our deed of gifts with Smithsonian,
Mhm,
the bulk of everything of like 43 years or whatever went there in 2016.
mhm.
And then we recently did an update, which was supposed to be every 5 years. It was actually more like 7 years or 6.5 years. We did that in June, July.
Mhm.
So the next time will be a few years from now. But yes, periodically we update that. So ultimately, this material will find its way to Archives of American Art of Smithsonian, where we have over 1,000 recordings,
Wow.
which encompass the work of about 8,500 artists. And we've been told pretty recently by archives that ours is the largest collection of audio and video that they have.
Oh,
That's great.
wonderful.
Mm. And so with that thought, we'll say goodnight to each other and thank you very much for coming. Try us again soon.
It's
Thank you
wonderful.
very much.